Today we're going to explore a powerful idea known as four-dimensional thinking, a perspective where the line between your inner thoughts and the reality you experience begins to blur. Imagine for a moment that everything you could ever desire or experience already exists in some form right now, not necessarily visible to your physical senses, but present within a deeper layer of reality. This concept suggests that the quiet conversations you have within your own mind, those thoughts you repeat to yourself throughout the day, play a much bigger role than most people realize. The way you speak to yourself internally, the images you hold in your imagination, and the stories you tell about your life gradually shape the structure of your experiences. In other words, your internal dialogue is not just mental noise. It is a creative process quietly influencing how you interact with the world and how the world responds to you. When you begin to look at life through this lens, imagination takes on a new meaning. It is no longer just daydreaming or wishful thinking. Instead, it becomes the starting point of creation, the place where ideas, possibilities, and future experiences first take form before they appear in the physical world. In this sense, the thoughts you nurture internally act like seeds, and over time those seeds grow into the situations, relationships, and opportunities you encounter in your daily life. Understanding this shift in perspective is the first step towards seeing how your inner world and outer reality are more connected than they may seem at first glance. And once you start noticing that connection, it can completely change the way you think about the role your own awareness plays in shaping your life. Creation, in the sense we're discussing here, isn't about pulling something out of thin air or forcing reality to change through sheer effort. Instead, it's about recognizing and bringing into view something that already exists within what we might call an invisible layer of reality. Think of it like tuning a radio. The signal is already there, broadcasting continuously, but until your receiver aligns with the correct frequency, you can't hear it. In the same way, the experiences, opportunities, and outcomes you desire may already exist as possibilities waiting to be realized. What guides you toward those possibilities is the combination of your inner dialogue and the vision you hold in your imagination. Your inner voice, when it's calm and aligned, acts like a compass pointing you toward a version of reality that matches your deeper intentions. And it's important to recognize that this inner voice is very different from the constant stream of mental chatter most of us experience throughout the day. Mental chatter tends to be reactive, scattered, and often shaped by fear or doubt, while your true inner voice carries a sense of clarity, balance, and possibility. It speaks from a place of alignment rather than anxiety. Hello and welcome to The Inner Code, where we explore the deeper patterns that shape consciousness and reality. Many of the ideas we're discussing here were also explored by the influential spiritual thinker Neville Goddard, who taught that imagination plays a central role in how reality unfolds. He often suggested that we should learn to treat the unseen as if it were already real, calling the invisible into the visible through the power of focused imagination. In this framework, imagination isn't just fantasy, it's the starting point of manifestation. Before anything appears in the physical world, it first exists as a mental image, a feeling, or a vision held in consciousness. When you begin to understand this principle, imagination becomes more than a creative tool. It becomes the bridge between the invisible possibilities that surround us and the tangible experiences that eventually take shape in our everyday lives. At this point, the discussion moves from defining the idea to establishing a deeper foundation behind it. Many spiritual teachers, including Neville Goddard, emphasized a principle that may sound unusual at first. Faith is not simply believing in something blindly, but maintaining loyalty to an invisible reality even before it becomes visible in the physical world. In this context, faith means trusting that what you imagine and hold consistently in your mind is already taking shape within a deeper layer of existence. When you begin to understand this idea, you start to see yourself differently, not as someone reacting to life, but as someone participating in the design of it. This is why many teachings describe human beings as the architects of their reality. The thoughts you repeat internally, the assumptions you carry about yourself, and the conversations you hold in your own mind gradually shape the structure of your experiences. According to this perspective, events don't always begin in the external world. Instead, they often start as impressions, or images within consciousness long before they appear in the physical environment. Neville Goddard once suggested that people can sometimes sense or imagine events before they actually occur in the three-dimensional world, which implies that life may unfold according to patterns that originate beyond what we can immediately see. One of the reasons this concept can feel unfamiliar is because we are trained from an early age to trust our five senses as the ultimate proof of reality. We learn to believe that if something cannot be seen, heard, or touched, it must not be real. But this teaching invites us to consider a different possibility, that the senses, useful as they are, may also limit our perception. When we rely exclusively on sensory evidence, we may overlook the subtle processes unfolding beneath the surface of experience. Learning to notice those deeper signals requires a shift in attention, moving from constant external observation to a more reflective awareness of the inner world where many changes begin. At this stage, the conversation moves into one of the most transformative ideas in this entire framework, the shift in perception that happens when you begin to think and feel as if something you desire has already been accomplished. Many people spend their time waiting for the external world to change before they allow themselves to feel confident, secure, or fulfilled. But this approach suggests something very different. Instead of waiting for physical proof, you intentionally enter a state of mind where the desired outcome is already complete. This shift in awareness changes the way you interpret everything around you. As you begin thinking more independently and listening to your intuition, that inner guidance starts acting like a compass, directing you toward choices and opportunities that align with your deeper intentions. At the same time, this perspective challenges the limits of what we usually call three-dimensional thinking. When we rely entirely on the logic of the physical world, we tend to see life through the lens of past experiences and future worries. Our attention becomes trapped in timelines instead of possibilities. However, when you affirm internally that something has already been done, when you allow yourself to experience the feeling of completion, you move into a different mental state. Even if nothing in the external environment appears to change immediately, your perception begins to shift. You notice possibilities you may have overlooked before. Your reactions to circumstances become calmer and more intentional. In this state, your internal dialogue begins to align with the vision you want to experience. This alignment gradually bridges the gap between your desires and the information you receive from your senses. Instead of feeling controlled by circumstances, opinions, or external pressure, you begin navigating life with a clearer sense of direction. Opportunities, people, and environments that resonate with your new mindset become easier to recognize. In this way, the shift in your internal state becomes the first step toward experiencing a different version of reality. After exploring the theory behind four-dimensional thinking, the discussion now shifts toward a practical example that helps illustrate how these ideas can be applied in everyday life. Manifestation, in this context, is not about ignoring reality or hoping things magically change overnight. Instead, it involves aligning your inner perspective with a possibility that already exists and allowing the right circumstances, information, and opportunities to gradually appear. To understand this more clearly, imagine that you've decided to pursue a completely new career path. Rather than focusing on the obstacles, uncertainty, or the long process ahead, you begin by experiencing the essence of that new career as if it were already part of your life. This means allowing yourself to mentally step into the role you desire, imagining what your daily routine would feel like, the environment you would work in, the conversations you might have with colleagues, and the sense of fulfillment you would experience. In this moment, imagination becomes more than simple visualization. It becomes an intentional act of faith. You are temporarily stepping into a version of reality where your goal already exists. As you immerse yourself in this vision with as much sensory detail and emotional clarity as possible, your mind begins to reorganize how it interprets the world around you. Even though your external situation may look the same at first, subtle changes often begin to appear. You may feel new motivation or inspiration that wasn't there before. You may encounter unexpected information, helpful connections, or opportunities that point you in a direction you hadn't considered. These small shifts can seem coincidental, but they often reflect a deeper process unfolding beneath the surface. By consistently returning to the feeling of the desired outcome and maintaining that internal alignment, you gradually move closer to experiences that match the state you have already rehearsed within your imagination. At this stage, the video shifts from explanation to practical application, offering a simple framework for working with your inner world in a more intentional way. The central principle is a reminder of the core idea behind four-dimensional thinking. Everything you want to experience already exists in some form right now. The key is learning how to bring your awareness into alignment with that invisible state until it begins to feel natural and real. Rather than waiting for physical evidence, you deliberately focus your attention on the inner experience first. One way to do this is by allowing yourself to enter a calm, deeply relaxed state, similar to the moment just before falling asleep. In that quiet mental space, the mind becomes more receptive and imagination becomes easier to engage. From there, you hold a single clear image that represents the reality you want to experience. Instead of constantly changing the picture, you return to that one scene repeatedly, allowing it to become vivid and emotionally familiar. At the same time, you may reinforce the experience with a simple affirmation, something that suggests the outcome has already been accomplished, such as reminding yourself that it has already been done. The purpose is not to force belief, but to gently guide your mind into a state where the desired outcome feels possible and internally consistent. Concentration plays a crucial role in this process. When your attention becomes focused in one direction, your thoughts begin to behave like a narrow beam of light, illuminating one idea while everything else fades into the background. This focused attention allows your inner dialogue to remain aligned with the outcome you want to experience instead of drifting into doubt or distraction. Over time, this alignment between imagination, inner conversation, and emotional state creates a subtle but powerful shift in your internal world. As those internal shifts become more stable, changes often begin to appear in the outer environment as well. Opportunities, insights, and interactions may begin to reflect the assumptions you have been rehearsing internally. In this way, the inner and outer worlds begin to move together in a kind of quiet harmony, where your internal state gradually shapes how reality unfolds around you. At this point in the discussion, the video introduces one of the most powerful ideas in the entire concept of four-dimensional thinking, the principle that the outer world often mirrors what is happening within our own consciousness. To understand this idea, the video first makes an important distinction between what we might call our natural faculties and our spiritual awareness. Our natural faculties rely heavily on the five senses, what we can see, hear, and touch. While these senses are extremely useful for navigating the physical world, they can also limit our understanding if we rely on them as the only source of truth. Developing a deeper vision requires learning to notice the subtle signals that arise from within. This is where turning attention inward becomes essential. Instead of reacting automatically to external circumstances, the practice involves observing the conversations we have with ourselves about our daily experiences and our future goals. When we start paying attention to this internal dialogue, we often discover that many external events reflect assumptions we have been repeating internally. The video illustrates this with a simple example. Imagine you share an ambitious goal with someone and they respond by saying that it may be impossible or that you are likely to fail. At first, this reaction might feel discouraging or unfair. But the deeper perspective presented here suggests that such moments can sometimes echo doubts that already existed within your own mind. Perhaps, before hearing that criticism, a quiet thought had already appeared internally asking, "Can I really do this? Or what if this doesn't work?" According to this idea, those internal doubts can subtly shape how situations unfold in the outer world. When we begin to recognize this connection, we also begin to see where our real power lies. Change rarely begins in the environment around us. It begins with the assumptions and beliefs held in our consciousness. Once those inner assumptions shift, the external world often starts reflecting that change in unexpected ways. If this idea resonates with you, take a moment to pause and reflect on it. And if you feel inspired, try writing a short statement in the comments below such as, "I choose confidence over doubt." Sometimes a simple declaration can become the first step toward a new direction in how we think and act. As the discussion comes to a close, the central message of this entire idea becomes clearer. The outer world often acts like a stage where the movements of our inner consciousness are gradually revealed. The situations we experience, the environments we move through, and even the behavior of people around us can sometimes function like a canvas reflecting the assumptions we carry within. When we begin to recognize this relationship, life stops feeling like a random sequence of events and starts to look more like a dynamic interaction between our internal awareness and the world around us. One important shift that comes with this realization is learning not to define yourself solely through the evidence provided by the five senses. If we believe that reality is limited only to what we can immediately see or measure, it can feel as though we are constantly drifting through circumstances that are beyond our control. But when we understand that our inner conversations play a creative role, a different perspective begins to emerge. The thoughts we repeat internally, the beliefs we nurture, and the assumptions we carry about our lives begin to act like architects shaping the structure of our outer experiences. In this way, change does not begin in the external world. It begins in consciousness. When your internal dialogue evolves, the direction of your life can begin to shift as well. This does not mean there is only one possible future. In fact, the opposite may be true. Life can present many possible paths, and the mindset you cultivate influences which direction gradually becomes more visible to you. Some people move through life by pushing forward with effort, others move with patience and flow, and many find a balance somewhere in between. But the moment you recognize that awareness and intention play a role in shaping experience, you step into a more proactive relationship with your life and your choices. From that perspective, new possibilities often begin to appear where limitations once seemed permanent. If you found this exploration helpful or thought-provoking, consider supporting the channel by liking the video, sharing it with someone who might appreciate it, and subscribing for more conversations about consciousness, mindset, and personal growth here on The Inner Code.